Welcome to this podcast for Brighton School of Business and Management students studying for the HND Level 5 courses. In business, environmental management is concerned with organisations operating in a way which does as little damage to the natural environment as possible, such as minimising the production of waste materials, including hazardous ones, minimising the use of energy and minimising the use of scarce natural resources. This is often discussed under the label of sustainability, which is the concept of an organisation continuing to be successful, but only by taking a positive approach to social and environmental factors, as well as financial and economic factors. Social management is concerned with the impact that an organisation's activities has on the communities producing its raw materials, on its local community, its customers, and any communities or social groups that are indirectly affected by its activities. Section 1. Over the last 50 years, and particularly in the last decade, in most Western and developed countries, there has been a major change of attitude towards the contribution of business to environmental management. You will need to summarise the reasons for this and give examples of recent developments. You should also mention that this change has not yet become established in some poorer, less developed regions. For more information on this, read the articles found by searching under the phrase Environmental Management plus Business plus Attitudes and visit the websites listed at the end of this podcast. A useful article with links to other resources that will help with addressing both bullet points 2 and 3 can be found at www.iisd.org/SD. On bullet point 4, in essence, this approach is about the organisation being judged and judging itself on not only its financial performance, but also on its social and environmental performance. There is a helpful page on the International Institute for Sustainable Development website at this address, and other useful articles on sustainability and environmental management on the same website. Section 2. Stakeholders referred to in bullet point 1 could include shareholders, funding bodies, lenders, suppliers, customers and clients, local authorities, local communities, government, employees and trade unions. Some of these stakeholder groups can be very powerful in terms of how they can influence an organisation in adopting positive social and environmental policies. You'll need to research this topic using search terms such as stakeholders plus influence plus sustainable policies. There is a useful starter article which can be found at this address. Or if you go to www.coppervale.org/blog and type stakeholders influence into the search box. On bullet point 2, much to the surprise of many business people, it is possible to reduce costs by adopting environmentally friendly practices, and you should find and include examples of this in your assignment. You can find several articles on this subject by doing a Google search for cost savings, environmental sustainability, and by visiting the websites which are listed at the end of this podcast. I think you should select and discuss a reasonably complex example to address bullet point 3. If there is an example from your own organisation, you can use this, perhaps the implementation of ISO 14001 and the benefits that have accrued, or perhaps the change to a green supplier and the impact of this on the organisation's image, or perhaps the organisation contributing in some way to solving social problems in its area and the effects of this on the company's image. If it is not possible to use an example from your own organisation, then there are many examples to be found on the web. If you search using phrases such as business plus social issues plus contribution, or perhaps business plus corporate responsibility plus benefits, this should produce some useful examples. Section 3. Examples of the conflict expressed in bullet point 1 could include green and fuel efficient cars which don't sell in large numbers because perhaps they are seen as slow and unattractive and perhaps not so convenient to refuel. You could also think about low sales of eco-friendly home cleaning products as another example. Perhaps the best example at the moment is the reluctance of consumers to pay a premium for organically produced foods, which after 20 years of intensive marketing still only account for about 5% of total food sales in the UK. On bullet point 2, there are many differences in the attitudes of individual shareholders compared to the attitudes of corporate group shareholders, and also many differences between attitudes in the developed, wealthier countries and those in undeveloped regions. A search using the phrase shareholders plus environmental plus social will lead to many useful articles on this subject. On bullet point 3, there are many aspects to this subject which you can discuss, not least of which is the different and often totally opposing objectives of the two sides. A search using the phrase business plus pressure groups plus influence will bring up some useful websites which will allow you to research this subject further. Finally, section 4. There are a considerable number of sources of information and guidance about environmental performance, including the websites listed at the end of this podcast, and a formal environmental management system, ISO 14001, that organisations can implement and use. However, in comparison, there is very little information on social responsibility, although there is growing interest, and certainly some information about corporate social responsibility. You'll need to describe and evaluate both social responsibility and corporate social responsibility in your assignment. Bullet point 2. To find examples of different strategies which you can discuss, you could try searching for phrases such as environmental strategy plus business plus example, environmental strategy plus charity plus example, or perhaps environmental strategy plus retail sector plus example. On bullet point 3, life cycle assessment is now a major element of the approach taken by environmentally aware organisations. A related concept for you to consider is that of minimising the carbon footprint. A small but important side effect of this is that product labelling can now incorporate information on the usable life of a product and information on how to dispose of the packaging in an environmentally friendly way. Considerable information on this and examples can be found by searching with phrases such as life cycle analysis plus product labelling. And finally, here are some websites that you should find useful when completing this assignment. If you need any further information or assistance with this assignment, please contact your tutor.